So here's what you need to know. The church in America has three outposts. DC and New York, and historically Boston a little bit, but that's faded. New York's important, but the really important one is DC. Washington, D.C., Chicago, Los Angeles. All right, those are the archdioceses that run the show in America. You've got the East Coast, you've got the central U.S. via Chicago, and then you've got L.A. And what we saw happen in the recent history of the Catholic Church is we had men like McCarrick leading things in Washington, D.C. We had Cardinal Bernardin, who was a sexual pervert, in Chicago. And then out in L.A., we had Mahoney. And these three men in these three pivotal places were able to run the show. How come he was molesting people as early as 1971? Father Boniface, blew the whistle on him in 2000. But he went on to be Archbishop of D.C. He went on to be a cardinal, people. How does this happen? Well, we've been waiting for the report from the Pope, from the bishops. We don't have it. But I was very happy to see this lay report that was issued. It's a study. I'm going to share it on the screen so you can see it, and then this is on LifeSite News. The hierarchical culture also gives rise to problems. For example, these might include the potentials for ambitious clergy or seminarians to actively seek the favor and patronage of their own and or other influential bishops, or indeed for bishops to use the hope or even the promise of preferment as a means of incentivizing or rewarding loyalty, the authors wrote. It could result in certain types of priests being favored or formed in line with the type of their own bishop, and perhaps a wider episcopal mold or culture. This is intensified by the fact that priests learn to be bishops through a process of imitation and socialization, and this can lead to identifiable cliques of bishops bound together by ties of loyalty. Similar behavior, shared proteges, and a sense that if one member goes down, they all go down. Okay, so this is illustrating these spider webs, these networks, because remember, McCarrick can't do all of this on his own. He needs dozens of people supporting him and covering for him. Another issue is the special nature of the relationship between a seminarian or priest and his bishop. Very different from that of an employee or an employer. A seminarian or priest owes his bishops both reverence and obedience, the authors note. Then there is the issue of homosexuality. This, the authors argue, has an important relevance for understanding the McCarrick case. Yes, it does. This is why the United States bishops are not coming forward with a report. The report won't just be about McCarrick. The report is going to name the names of other bishops, other cardinals, other important people, important laymen too. So it goes on to say, not least, there is clear potential for mutual compromise networks of homosexually active priests, such as McCarrick. It appears to be cultivated among his, quote, nephews. Again, so this is the weird thing about McCarrick, is he's the uncle, and then his victims are the nephews. And then these nephews get preferential treatment to get raised up. Oh, you get to be a Monsignor. Oh, now you get to be an auxiliary bishop over here. Now, or maybe you get to be a rector of a seminary, and then auxiliary bishop, and then you get to bishop, and then the archbishop, and then a cardinal. The article also states the existence of homosexual subcultures within U.S. Catholic seminaries or diocesan power structures, while understandably a sensitive topic, is well established in the academic literature, as to are the disproportionately high numbers of same-sex attracted seminarians and clergy in the first place. The authors, Dorothy says, the authors observe that given a number of factors in the relationship between homosexuality and the church, and the potential for subordinates' exploitation by bishops, The risk of another McCarrick-esque cases is real. That's what I don't like. I don't like that this is perpetuated so that my grandkids are part of some scheme like this. If I have a son or a grandson who wants to go to seminary, I don't want to worry about this weird McCarrick sexual clique program that's embedded in the seminary and diocesan program. Do you agree with me? If you have a son who wants to be a priest, are you going to feed him to the system? No, it's disgusting. It's not Christ-like. It's not based on the Bible. It's not based on discipleship. People ask, is McCarrick still alive? Yes, he's still alive. That's why they haven't released the report. They're waiting for the man to die. He knows so much dirt on all the bishops. If they went after him and squeezed him. All right, I'm going to put the map on the screen. I know y'all want to see the map, and I'm going to do some analysis. Now, you'll see right in the middle of this chart is McCarrick. He's the center dot. All right. Now, if you go out to the left, you sort of see fingers going out. That's less interesting to me because there's not a spider web. All right. Where do you see a spider web in a bunch of interconnected lines going back and forth, back and forth? I'm going to argue it's over here to the right of McCarrick. These are the power names and the power brokers that are most indebted to McCarrick and work with McCarrick the most. So if we go from McCarrick and we go up a little bit to the right, we see Farrell. Bishop Farrell was the auxiliary bishop in D.C. under McCarrick, and he was the roommate of McCarrick. That's right. They were roommates. And Farrell said, I never saw anything weird going on when I was in D.C. as his roommate. I never saw a thing. Now, remember, Farrell used to be Legionary of Christ and was the driver at one point for the Judas priest, Father Marcial Maciel, who also was a sexual predator, molested children, had women on the side, and embezzled money. He never saw Father Marcial Maciel do anything bad either. How does one man, Bishop Farrell, who, by the way, is now Cardinal Farrell, how does he, in his life story, get associated and work for Father Marcial Maciel and Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, the two worst crooks of the last 50 years in the Catholic Church? So he's there on the map. And then if you go out to the right of Farrell, you'll see Wuerl. He's got a bunch of connections directly and indirectly to McCarrick. He was the next Archbishop of D.C. Vigano says he lies shamelessly. We also learned from Vigano, and I know from having spoken and been around McCarrick, I heard a talk he gave in D.C., that he travels to China and had connections with the church in China. And he believed that the underground church should be united with the patriotic communist Catholic Church, which is a fake church, and that the underground church should be suppressed. He worked for that. He did the groundwork for that deal, and then Pope Francis made that deal happen. Seminarians should not be afraid of being molested by their bishop or by other priests, by professors, or by seminarians. Altar boys, when they're putting on a cassock in New York City, and the father's like, what size do you wear? And he goes to measure your inseam and he fondles you, which is what happened. That's a New York Times story. Cardinal Dolan said it was credible. That should never happen. And that man would then go on and become Monsignor, Bishop, Archbishop, Cardinal. What?